When Diablo 2 came out, if you were like me and every other underage child playing the game, you looked at the Necromancer and thought, I don't want to play as the bad guy, and then made the enlightened decision of playing Barbarian instead. But what every non-child, non-stupid person realized is that the Necromancer has a fearfully legitimate shot at being the best class in Diablo 2. The reasons one would forego the good guy gumption and embrace the very villainous vocation is that they want to use Corpse Explosion because who needs balance when you have Bomb? Yeah, so Necro gets the C4 ability, but in addition you can cast all kinds of nonsense to absolutely ruin your opposition. Curses are so ridiculously overpowered in many situations, being an effective I don't give a shit about anything, be it the difficulty, the mob in question, the final boss, Ubers, you name it. In addition, the Necromancer has the unique benefit of being 9 people. This gives you unparalleled ability to hit things with basic attacks, but when those attacks are Might Aura'd, Fanaticism Aura'd, etc., call me Aura the Explorer because I'll be exploring some boss's ass with that. I will of course be talking about builds, I will of course be talking about the gearing process, and finally I'll conclude with hardcore evaluation for only the real serious people in the community. Everyone else is a little bitch. Before I bring up Necromancer builds, let's chat about the skill trees, as is the routine at this point. Spellcasting, curses, bombs. You want it? They're yours, my friend, as long as you have enough skill points. There is an abundance of choice here, giving the player like 15,000 ways to build their character. Do you want to have incredible caster ability? Well, I don't know about incredible, we definitely have decent abilities. Want to have a bag of spells that cause calamity, the likes of which you've never seen? Oh yeah, I'll mention now, Corpse Explosion is the literal most stupidly overpowered, busted, nonsense, over-the-top, amazing, top-tier powerhouse ability in the game. It turns every dead enemy near you into a bomb blast. Cast a spell on a corpse, deleting them from existence, which makes them non-revivable, by the way, and it just explodes. It deals damage based on the enemy's HP, so it's always good and really doesn't require anything to be better. It also deals 50% physical and 50% fire damage, so it's literally almost impossible that something will take no damage from it. Dumb as hell, it's something that you need to take in every build. Finally, do you want to have the freedom to go to bed while you just clear literally every challenge in the game? Got a whole heaping tree full of that. Without hyperbole, without exaggeration, without joke. Necromancer is possibly the best class in the game by far. It's almost absurd how much they let Necromancer have, and I mean, nothing is quite like it. And that's awesome, and the power is no joke. What I don't like personally, and many people will surely disagree with me, please feel free to shit talk me, I like that, I don't like it, but it's good. But I don't like many of these builds for fun. Don't get me wrong, they are cool for a bit. Building some of this stuff is super enjoyable, it's kind of easy. It's just when you get to the point where you're watching AI that aren't even real play the game and you don't really kill anything yourself until half the group of monsters you're fighting is dead, I start to get a little bored. And obviously that's not a negative towards Necromancer itself, that's just a personal thing. You'd probably think with that complaint that I enjoy some of the non-summoning related skills the Necromancer has. And I do, but it kind of becomes apparent that they don't bring out the flavor of the class nearly as much. I am getting ahead of myself though. We need to talk about builds right now. Like 2 minutes ago right now. I was too long complaining. Poisonmancer is probably my favorite Necromancer build because it's a really different kind of spellcaster compared to Sorceress and Druid. Using Poison Nova, you spray out a 360-degree spread of bolts that do pretty good damage. You utilize lower resistance curse and then hit them with all your might. A clay golem or whatever golem you want, doesn't matter, walks around and helps out. Makes you feel safe. Doesn't matter that he stinks and does barely any damage. I mean, he's with you through thick and thin. The Merc is there as well, cutting down stuff you can't kill. So in a lot of ways, this is a simple build, just involving you walking, or teleporting, around, shrugging off hordes of monsters. Corpse Explosion when you want to add a little spice to your life, and just walk around and have a good old time. Pet the golem, I love the golem. Golem's my best friend. Well, after all this discussion about Poisonmancer, let's move on to the other half of the bone and poison tree and talk about Poison Dagger. I have little to say about Poison Dagger. It's basically Poisonmancer, but you now have the power to stab things. It's a unique build, sort of being a hybrid of a caster and a melee. It's almost like a druid in the sense that you do a bunch of things and are useless. I definitely wouldn't say this is out of this world nutty damage. It's just, quite in this world at the end of the day. But if you want to have a little punch added to the Poison Necro, I find this build to be a good choice. It's pretty fun. Well done, Necro. I'm not going to bed just yet with any of these builds. The Bonemancer. Now we'll really move on to the other side of the tree and talk about the Bonemancer. This is such a classic build. It's just painting every fiber of my nostalgia. I mean, it's on par with the Whirlwind skill. It's just so cool to think about it, but in practice, it's good, don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but it requires quite the investment to really get going. And at the end of the day, is it the best spellcaster? No, not even close. It's really cool though, and it probably has the sickest spell animation in the entire game with Bone Spear. Bone Spear is a big bone spear that spears through things with the power of bone. Subscribe for more Diablo 2 information and content. This has been Stupid Guide Plagiarizer 1337, and I hope you give me all your money, thanks. I don't even want to mention Bone Spirit because it has, outrageous MP consumption and it's not my go-to for this build. It's fine if you have all the mana in the world, etc., but I don't like it as much, so there's my rationale. Cool build also is pretty good because you won't get stuck on many immunities since Bone Spear is non-elemental, so all around fun for the whole family. Before delving deep into the final build that I'm going to talk about, there are two builds I'm going to mention, but not go into great depth about either of them. The Hybrid Mancer is a poison or bone focused necro that also uses the summoning tree to make half an army. It's okay, but I don't see the point because you really could overload on one or the other and you'll be stronger, I think. This build is trying to eat its cake and eat another cake. I don't like it too much. In the bin it goes. Poisonmancer is a build that gets way too interested in corpse explosion to the point where you literally do nothing else. It's even in the title, you Explosionmancer things. The wiki claims that this build is only good for multiplayer where you don't have to even score one kill. So picture just walking around and smashing your forehead into your corpse explosion button. That sounds great, right? Doesn't sound like bedtime yet. Okay, we have the big boy to talk about. The Summonmancer may take this white-haired, chain-smoking Chad and carry him into the unparalleled best class in Diablo 2. Summonmancer has a range though. It goes from boring and not so good to the best build in the entire game by far. Despite what annoying bastard guides will say, unless I'm just the worst player of all time and don't understand something, you just need so much stuff to break this build. Some guys suggest you don't need shit all. Literally you could be naked to be overpowered, but no, it's just not true. You don't need much to survive. That part's super true. You're really defended with this football team around you, but for offense, you'll sit here for so long as your dumbass army slaps at things. It requires a huge amount of plus skills, Enigma to warp you and your group around, a nightmare offensive merc to give might aura, or having some variety of thing to buff up your group, or maybe an amazing weapon to further puff up your skeletons, skill charms, the torch, intimate knowledge of when to use curses, you're high enough level to have maxed out all the skills you need, and finally you're looking at such a powerhouse build that you can practically kill anything in the entire game. And then you wonder what you're doing there. Yes, you can use Bone Spear, which you'll need to get, anyway to have the ball rolling since you can't summon a skeleton without a corpse. And yes, you can corpse explosion things and think about what curse you want to use, but you're not the main attraction. You're actually a sideshow in your own build. And that's the point, I get it. I just don't like that though, but I know many people who do, and I mean, hey, you can't argue with the power. And for a few hours, I too am having the time of my life. It's so incredible to be just like a crowd of termites destroying everything. So if you like to be a contender for best in the game, I can fully recommend the Summon Necro. Okay, but we have to chat about gear, and truth be told, it's kind of a pain. Necromancer is a caster archetype, which means it doesn't require insane amounts of stuff to be both decently strong and safe. To be really good, it's stunningly expensive. Let's take Poisonmancer to begin. You need one of the rarest uniques in the game for your weapon, a really expensive rune word for your body, and actually how about all good uniques and rune words for everything. The barrier can be remarkably steep. It doesn't help that the modes of Necro play are vastly different from other ones. With Barbarian, for example, if you have combat skill charms, you can just swap to whatever you'd like to use. If you play Necro, you need charms for both Poison, Bone, and Summoning. The gear between all the playstyles is different, your Merc setup completely changes, with caster builds you want to freeze Aura Mercenary, and with the Skelemancer you want a Might Aura. It's a juggle, and it's hard to change your mind with this class. The good thing is magic finding. Necro has so many good builds that can magic find, making him in my mind a top 3 class for that idea. He might be behind Barbarian, he's probably behind Sorceress, but it's cool, you'll always be reasonably safe with whatever gear you're running when you're doing this idea. Okay, finally, hardcore Necromancer. Actually, don't really know. You sometimes feel like you have the durability of a baby, but you're surrounded by metaphorical and literal walls of stuff, but things can crumble so quickly with Necro that it can be harrowing. With Poison and Bone builds, you can level the fields much easier, but now you have 0 things to stand in the way. Besides our Chad Golem, you always want him. It's dangerous to go alone, bring Golem. In my mind, it's the middle of the pack. You have decent to good strength on budget gear, you have decent to great defense with some builds, but since you're only a couple steps up from the Sorceress durability, you could possibly die to the stupidest thing ever. So, try to avoid the stupidest thing ever. Okay, so I typically pass judgment at the end of the video, determining whether or not the Necromancer would be the best class in Diablo 2. But for this one, I'm not going to. There's only one contender left for the best class in the game, and why should I spoil the surprise? Next time is our last class evaluation where I pit the strength of Necromancer versus... oh fuck, I forgot the Assassin.